All right. Yep, you guys can hear me. All right. So, welcome to my first podcast on Zoom. And the topic that I wanted to talk about today and why I decided to go forward with this and why I decided to give my yes. And the topic of today's first podcast is why a yes is needed. Now, I know I am going to be more spiritual in this because I'll explain why. So the topic is why a yes is needed. And I wanted to share my story, and I share it. I feel like I share it enough on social media, but when it's scattered all over the place, it's kind of hard to believe me almost. So that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I'm doing a podcast. And the one of the things that I have learned is that why even I have to say yes, even though it's your yes is needed, my yes is still required as I grow. And as much as as much as I make it seem like it's easy, that a yes is easy, it's not. And I wanted to express that. And so that's why I'm starting a podcast. I knew for weeks that I was supposed to start a podcast. I knew that. And I was too scared to. Main reasons why a lot of people are afraid to step out. They don't think that they're capable of doing it, or they're not good enough, or someone's going to be better at it. And it's one of the reasons why when I started the powerlifting team, I looked for someone else to do to coach the team, because I was too afraid to do it. I'm like, I'm not a power lifter. And what I realized is that no matter what, if it's your assignment, your yes is required, not someone else's yes. And so I tried to brush my assignment to someone else, and it wasn't working. And I was like, yo, like, where you at? So I learned that when it's your assignment, a yes is required from you. Now, one of the questions that someone asks is like, how can you hear from God while you are listening? Well, you hear from God when you follow your instructions, period. If you don't follow your instructions, you ain't going to hear nothing, because you're too busy following what you want to do. You're too busy following your own instructions, your own feelings, your own directions. So you ain't going to hear nothing. And so a lot of times people look for the easier thing. Yeah, I wish I can tell you it was easy, but it's not easy. And I'm not trying to scare no one, but the reason why I become so shared the in between is because a lot of people leave this part out. And then next you know, a lot of people are trying to figure out, hey, how am I supposed to hear from God? So how I got here was following my instructions. And that's how I got here. I wanted to, when I was writing my book, and then when I was starting this podcast, it took me weeks to narrow down how I wanted to deliver my message. And I was like, yo, how do you want me to do this? And I simply heard, how did you get here? I said, all right, bet. I'll share that part. So I have expressed over and over again, all of my instructions is something I do not want to do. It's not like sometimes a very loud voice. It's a very faint voice. But if you don't understand your emotions and you don't shave off all the trust, the lack of trust that you have in your life, if you don't shave off like the lack of discipline that you have in your life, if you don't shave off everything that's holding you back, you're going to have a hard time hearing because too much of you and your emotions are going to be interfering. And then you're going to be second guessing yourself. And then you're going to be like, nah, that ain't it. And then also you do something else. The reason why I move the way I do is because I hate overthinking. Like it tortures me. And because I hate overthinking, I move really fast. And so, and then when I don't move fast enough, I get waking up in the middle of the night. That's another sign that I'm supposed to do something. So when I knew to do this podcast, I got a phone call. I got validation. I got a whole bunch of like confirmation to push out and do what I want to do. The only thing that was stopping me was my own fear. So a lot of people think that I'm very fearless. I'm not fearless. I just become bigger than my fears. And so when you let fears become bigger than you, the fears tell you what to do. And the only thing you become bigger than your fears is following all your instructions. And I know it sounds very nonchalant, but that's the main key to how I got here. When I started doing weight loss, I believe that we don't lack resources. You will hear me say that all the time. We don't lack resources. We lack commitment. And then I wanted to add what I recently heard, we lack commitment because we lack belief. And so we lack belief that it won't work, so we're not committed. And so what happens is we just be in the emotion of faith and we don't really step out in faith. And so when I was told to do to join a bikini team, I promise you, everyone's like, that is not from God. Like, you showing your ass, that's not from God. I'm like, it ain't from me. I didn't want to compete. And so what happened was I was very convicted. And so how I got into bodybuilding is the year of 2019. That was one of the hardest years of my life. After becoming very successful at losing 100 pounds, I got into a lot of interesting conflicts from following my instructions, and I paid other people's prices. Okay. And I felt that was very unfair. I felt persecuted. In fact, I was, and I paid a price. And so I felt that it was very unfair for me to pay for it. And I felt very overwhelmed. I felt almost like, nah, I'm done. I'm done. I keep all this back to back to back to back stuff. This ain't it. I'm done. I felt mentally burnt out. And so I've been feeling mentally burnt out since 2018. And what happens is when you don't follow your instructions, and you don't do what God wants you to do, you're carrying all this extra burden for no reason. And then when all of a sudden you think like, I got it, I'm cool, I'm going to do this, you become like this 100-mile-per-hour car on the highway with no seatbelt and no direction. And one day when I was going to work, I suddenly just broke down and cried. And I was like, what's going on? What in the world? And I tried fighting it. And it was so confusing to me. And finally, like after weeks of being tossed everywhere, a therapist was like, of course you broke down and cried. You carry the whole entire world. I was like, but I got this. I got this. Like, how dare you say I don't got this? And he was like, honey, like right now, this is too much right now. And I was like, oh, are you saying that I don't got it? Like, I was in such denial. Like I was so offended that he could not acknowledge my strength. And then he was confused that I was like in denial. And then finally he was like, you're carrying too much weight. Like, I'm surprised you didn't crash earlier. I was like, oh, wait, I was expecting to crash. And then finally, like, I understood what he said. And that's why you hear me say all the time, denial means delay. Okay. And another denial that I was in was when I was 300 pounds and the doctor, and I was having memory loss. And I went and I was like, oh yeah, my back, my knees, maybe I need some kind of medication. And the doctor was like, you need a lifestyle change. I was like, are you saying that I'm fat? Like, I'm 300 pounds. And like, I'm so offended that the doctor is like calling me fat. I was like, wait, hold up. Doc, you're a doctor. You should be nicer than this to me. And I was so in denial. And I was like, how dare you call me fat? So what's my medication? Like, it went over my head. That conversation did not change my life, but I heard him. I heard him. And I wish I can see that doctor now, because I would thank him for not feeding the thing that I wanted to be fed. And so that's the thing I do at camp. I don't feed the thing that you want to be fed so that you can stay stuck. I rip that Band-Aid off. You may not like me, but we are surrounded by gyms. 98% of the people that go back after joining a gym, after joining a lifestyle to change, after wanting to change, 98% of people go back to their old ways. We're surrounded by gyms. We have all the workouts in the world on YouTube. We have all the nutritions and diets. We have everything that we want here. And yet we're the unhealthiest country in the world. So we don't lack resources. We lack commitment. But why do we lack commitment? Because we lack belief. And so my belief in what I do and what I believe in is that there's a core problem to why you go back to their old ways. And we use training to teach you what is your hindrance. And so there's a lot of great coaches out there that teach technique. There's a lot of great coaches that teach nutrition, but I'm the person that finds the hindrance to get back up. And so this is a true story. One of my athletes from the powerlifting team was trying to get 300 bench because he competes next weekend. And he just could not get that bar up. I'm like, that bar snitching on you. I go, what's going on? And he told me, he said, there's some conflict, some family stuff, blah, blah. I go, huh. So you're, okay. So the hindrance, and I gave him one instruction. I said, you need to have the conversation ASAP, because it's the hindrance. Now, probably 99% of people are going to be like, what about technique? What about this? Did he sleep well? Yes, all of those come into factors, but I know my gift. I know what I'm called to do. I said, you need to have a conversation. Today, I said, he came in, I said, did you have the conversation? He goes, I sure did. I go, let's find out. He did that 300 without any struggles. And I posted a video on my Instagram. He goes, man, like, for real? It was just a conversation? I go, yes. It was the hindrance. You call it a conversation. I call it the hindrance. And so a lot of people think, like, if I just lose all the weight, or if I just get a good nutrition plan, I'm going to nail it. No, you're not. I'm not trying to be discouraging, but I can't explain and express to you how many inboxes I get about what do you eat. And so everyone laughs at my answer. Everyone laughs at my answer when I tell them what to eat or what to do. I didn't join a gym right away. I didn't start a diet right away. What I did, and I didn't realize what I did, was I discovered discipline. So one day I was going to therapy and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give up alcohol. And my relationship with alcohol was a very terrible one. This is my prayer. I say, God, if you can at least, because I know it's impossible for me to stop drinking, but if I can at least stop blacking out, I'll really appreciate it. That's it. That's all I want. I just want to stop blacking out, because I know stopping drinking, that's impossible. All I'm asking, if I can just stop blacking out, that's it. I really appreciate it if we did that. And so one day I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop drinking for 30 days. No one believed me. I didn't even believe it. I was like, well, we'll find out. And doing that, the hardest thing in my life, I was like, well, what if I give up fast food for 30 days? So giving up alcohol and fast food for 30 days, I lost 10 pounds. I was like, wow, did I drink that much? That's crazy that I lost weight. And no workouts, no diet, no walking. I just gave up the hardest thing for 30 days, and I actually did it for 45 days. And so I was like, so if I gave up the hardest thing, what if I joined a gym? So without realizing what I did the hardest thing for 30 days, and it taught me discipline for the rest of my life. So I never needed a diet. I never needed a workout plan. I just needed discipline. So when people say, hey, do you have any advice for me, or what's your diet? I say, give up the hardest thing for 30 days so that you can teach yourself commitment and dedication and discipline. And everyone laughs at me. And surprisingly, everyone's still in the same spot, except for me. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm not on a diet. I am on a diet right now because I'm competing, but it's nothing that I would share because like I'm hungry. So that's a different story. But as you get into learning about yourself, and as long as you get to know yourself, your body will tell you what you want. I promise you, your body will say, we need this, we need that, we need this. I didn't know that I was sensitive to eggs until last year. I was like, oh, I love eggs. Like, why? And so I currently have 2 torn meniscus, a deteriorating ACL, arthritis all over my body, and 3 baseball-sized fibroids. And the reason why I'm not in pain is because of one of my instructions I followed. So when I had this urge to start running. And everyone says, Desi, you can't run, you have bad knees. And right now, I'm a size small, and I'm currently about 160. And so someone expert told me, you won't be able to run until you're 128 pounds. I'm like, wow, like, okay, that's a lot of weight to lose just to be able to run. And so I ran, and my knees were locking. And I was like, maybe I can't run. And all these doctors like, you shouldn't be running. I was like, man. So when I was doing a competition in January of 2020, I thought it was all lifting. I didn't realize I had to run. I was like, oh crap. And my brother was with me, and he was like, do we have to run? I go, yeah, I didn't read that part. And not only did we have to run, but we had to run a total of 5 miles. And I was like, wow, how did I miss the obvious 5 miles out of this whole competition? That's embarrassing. I go, yeah, so we have to run. And so my knees kept locking. And I'm like, I'm not quitting. I don't care if I lose my leg. The competition just started. I'm not stopping. And so what I learned that day was that I could run. I mean, I sucked, but I could run. I go, that's crazy. Everyone said I couldn't run. All right, God, I hear you. And then it was February 8th or something like that, 33 degrees. I had this urge. You want to know how you want to hear from God and you're ignoring him? You have serious urge right here, like this serious anxiety because you're ignoring him. And so finally I was like, fine, I'll run, leave me alone. It went to that point. And so I was like, but it's cold outside. You really want me to? And the anxiety got bigger. I was like, okay. Let me just bundle up. But I was like, but I can't run. And the anxiety grew more. I was like, oh, okay, all right. Let me just bundle up more and just start running. And I ran, and I was like, holy smokes, I can run. And it just became this huge revelation. And the more I ran, the more I wanted to know what locks up my knees. So I started doing research. I had this strong desire to do research of what locks your knees. I said, yes, Lord, I'm looking. And it says, in order for you to stop locking your knees, you need to give up anything that has inflammation. I'm like, bet, what has inflammation? Alcohol. Wow, what a trap. I'm in. And so because I wanted to run so much, I gave up alcohol completely. Something that I thought was impossible, I gave up alcohol. I was like, this is the greatest trap ever because I'm in. So I gave up alcohol, I gave up red meat, and I just started running. And I just started becoming so empowered because everyone said that I couldn't run. And every time I ran, I became like, I was like on fire. I loved it. I didn't care about time. I didn't care about anything. I loved that I was able to run. And everyone said I couldn't. I just smiled and smiled bigger and bigger every time I run. I mean, people were passing by me like crazy. I'm like, yeah, I'll catch up. I'll catch up. But I was still running. And then all of a sudden, I was like, my knees locked. I was like, oh, what happened? What did I do wrong? All right. And one thing that I can tell you is that when you ask for anything self-growth, anything, if you ask God anything for self-growth, don't ask why, just ask anything for self-growth, you will get your answer 24 hours, guaranteed. I have yet to be disappointed because it clearly says, seek and you shall find, ask and you shall receive. It's true. So I was like, all right, why does my knees keep blocking? And so the next day I ran into my neighbor. She goes, hey, how's it going? I'm like, hey, good, I'm running. She's like, oh, good for you. And we had this conversation about gluten. I was like, oh, you gave up gluten and your whole body changed? All right, I'm giving it up too. Why not? After 3 weeks of giving up gluten, I was able to run 17 miles without my knee locking one time and no pain. I was like, I still have 2 torn meniscus. I still have a deteriorating ACL. I still have a full arthritis around my legs and my back. I have sciatica. I have everything. I have pages. And yet I was able to run 17 miles with 0 pain. And that year I got selected to run the New York City Marathon for 2020, but it got postponed to 2023. And all my runners friends are like, you're not even a runner. I'm like, I know. Isn't this hilarious? And so I was able to grab I think only 2% of the whole world gets a ticket to like run the New York City Marathon. And I was one of them. And so I was like, I'm doing it. So I was able to postpone it to 2023 and I'm going to run a marathon without pain and no surgeries. I'm just going to be extremely gluten-free. Now, do I eat gluten? Yes. When I'm not running. Do I wake up with locked knees? Yes. So when I eat gluten, I have to be prepared to pay the price. So anytime it's time for you to grow into a next level, you have to give up something every time. You want to grow in patience, you have to give up something. You want to grow your relationship with God, you have to give up something. You want to grow anything, you have to give up something. And that is one thing that I learned. And I was willing to give up alcohol to be able to run what everyone said that was impossible. I was like, all right, bet. And so now I'm in bodybuilding, another genius trap. And so I refuse to drink my calories. Like, I rather have bread. And so because I refuse to drink my calories, I have not touched liquor or beer since February of 2020. Will I have a glass of wine? Yeah. 2? Yeah. 3? Sure. But then I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to take all this in because I don't want to lose all the work that I've already created thus far. It's like, it's such the most genius trap I've never thought of in my life. And I've been to AA. I've been to a whole bunch of therapy sessions. I've been to so much, and to the point where I've graduated and they don't even know what to do with me. They're like, I'm taking notes from you. I'm like, oh, well, we can talk. And so there was nothing to put me in the mental health department because I kept graduating and different levels of improvement, to finally I got a phone call and they're like, we don't know where to put you. I go, me neither. Like, this is why I created Iron Therapy 2.0, because there's nothing more to offer outside of medication. And so my camp does not feed your band-aids. My camp gets to the core of the problem, to get the hindrance out of the way so that you can reach your maximum level. And so I use training to teach everything about me spiritually. And that's what I use my 4 a.m.s for. And so if you want to know how you can hear from God, follow your instructions. You can't make up your own instructions and be like, why am I hearing? Because now you're doing your own thing. I'm not saying that it's easy to step out. If someone ever said faith is easy, they're lying. No, I don't know what they're talking about. However, it is the greatest life I've ever lived in my life. I have traveled the world and did sailor stuff. You can Google that. And I can't express to you, this is the most peaceful life I've ever lived in my life. I remember sitting in that sofa and I go, man, is there such thing as peace? Because I feel insane all the time. So if anyone has ever asked, like, why do you do what you do? Like, why do you, if you don't want to do none of this, like, why do you do it? Because I can never go back there mentally ever again. I can't open that door. I opened too many wide doors, and that took me out. That almost took me out. I don't even know how I survived that. Like, if you're always asking why this, why that, why, it's a wrong door. And that door opens the wrong thing. And so what I did was I started asking, how do I grow to become better? How do I grow to become more available? How do I grow to become a better listener? How do I make this not about me? And so one of the things was shave off all my pride and ego. And it worked. 7 shows of last place. I don't know what else will shave your pride and ego, but that did a really good job. And so I realized that the message is me, but I will continue to learn more about me in these competitions. So I have a powerlifting team, and I wanted to keep the podcast as 30 minutes, so I'd have 2 more minutes left. So I wanted to share Nefti. Nefti is one of my powerlifter athletes. When she first came to camp, she came with the intention that because she was borderline diabetic. I want to say it was like a 6.0 score rate. And so when she came in, she just existed on her phone, just waiting for me to tell her what to do. Now, my camp is free. My assignment is for whoever finds their yes, you train them. That's my assignment. And so she came in just on her phone, waiting for me to tell her what to do. And then finally I was like, Planet Fitness is right around the corner. There's always Planet Fitness. And I walked away. And she was like, no one has ever spoken to me like that again in my life. But I knew her intention. And so she started showing up. Yes, she was showing up, but this time she showed up. And she started Googling all the workouts. She was being proactive. And when it was time to start the team, I told everyone, like, hey, I see you on a team. I told 2 people, you on the team. And I waited for one person because I knew she was going to be on the team. And so I waited and I waited. And she goes, hey, can I be on a team? I said, I was waiting for you. And the reason why I did that, because I knew if she asked me, she wanted it. And I'm telling you right now, she's a power horse on that team. She has done things that she never thought was possible. And I could not be more proud. And so her score for diabetes went from 6.0 to 5.8 in 1 year. And the doctor was like, keep taking the medication that you're taking. And she was like, what medication? So what I believe in works, and I protect it. And so I want to do this every Thursday at around 9 p.m. Next week, I will be in Ohio. So I will post on social media if I'm able to go live. I want to go live on YouTube. Right now, I have 44 subscribers. But if I don't have 50 subscribers by next week, then I will continue to do the Zoom link. So I hope you guys learned something. Thank you for joining. This is just a small piece. But if I can pass along anything to you, remember to always follow your instructions. And if you don't know what your instruction is, trust me, ask God, and He will definitely tell you 100%. And 99% of the time, you may not like the answer, but you don't make the rules. And as long as you remember that, you will always, always, always win. So thank you for joining, and have a good night.